At exactly 0437 hours local time, the guided missile destroyer USS Carney, operating under strict, darkened ship conditions as it transited the treacherous waters of the Strait of Hormuz, detected 17 incoming radar contacts closing at a staggering speed of Mach 2.4 from the Iranian coastline. This moment marked the arrival of the first wave of anti-ship ballistic missiles to breach the horizon, signaling a violent escalation in a conflict that has rapidly reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Only 20 days prior, the Islamic Republic of Iran had executed a maneuver not attempted by any nation since the height of the tanker war in 1988, effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz to international traffic. In those 3 weeks of intense hostility, Tehran opened fire on commercial tankers, launched ballistic missile volleys at American installations across the Persian Gulf, and subsequently faced a devastating retaliatory campaign that saw the near-total destruction of its surface navy, the systematic dismantling of its integrated air defense network, the elimination of key military leadership figures, and the degradation of a significant portion of its hardened underground nuclear infrastructure. However, as military analysts and defense officials now warn, the war is far from over. It has merely evolved into a second, arguably more perilous phase where the stakes have shifted from immediate tactical engagement to a long-term struggle for strategic dominance. The scale of the American response is unprecedented in the 21st century, with 41% of the entire operational fleet of the United States Navy now concentrated in or around the Middle Eastern theater of operations. This represents nearly half of the total sea power of the United States committed to a single geographic region, a concentration of force that underscores the urgency felt in Washington. Adding to this formidable armada is the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, a fully equipped amphibious combat force consisting of 2,500 Marines and sailors currently embarked on 3 warships transitioning from the Western Pacific to the Arabian Sea. At the heart of this group is the USS Tripoli, a 45,000-ton amphibious assault ship that is set to become the second largest vessel in the theater upon its arrival. Commercial satellite imagery has tracked the Tripoli's progress east of Taiwan, indicating that the unit is still at least 7 days away from the combat zone. Usually stationed in Okinawa to maintain the balance of power in the Pacific, the Tripoli's redeployment has left a significant security vacuum in the Western Pacific, directly opposite the shores of China and North Korea. This is a risk the Pentagon has explicitly accepted, signaling that the requirements in the Persian Gulf are so dire that Washington is prepared to leave a hole in its Pacific defensive posture to ensure the mission against Iran succeeds. This is not a routine rotation, but a profound strategic signal to allies and adversaries alike. Currently, 2 American aircraft carriers are already engaged in active combat operations. The USS Abraham Lincoln has been conducting high-tempo strike operations from the Arabian Sea since the first day of hostilities. Despite claims from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that the Lincoln had been struck by ballistic missiles, the U.S. Navy has consistently released footage showing the carrier conducting normal flight operations, effectively debunking viral misinformation as sophisticated fakes. The Lincoln continues to fly, continues to launch, and continues to destroy targets with clinical precision. Meanwhile, in the Red Sea, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest warship ever constructed at 100,000 tons, is approaching the end of an 11-month continuous deployment, the longest carrier stint since the Vietnam War. The strain on both the machinery and the 5,000-strong crew is becoming evident. A fire recently broke out in the ship's laundry compartment, and reports indicate that the vessel's operational readiness was temporarily impacted. The Ford is now being diverted to Greece for emergency repairs and much-needed maintenance. While the Navy maintains that crew morale remains high, military experts argue that keeping such a massive force at sea for nearly a year is mechanically and humanly unsustainable. The question of how much longer the Ford can endure has become the most critical logistical inquiry of the war. To address this, a third carrier is now entering the fray. The USS George H.W. Bush, another 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier, has just completed its composite training unit exercise off the coast of Virginia. During its final certification, Carrier Air Wing 7 conducted a total of 1,586 sorties, including 693 day and 682 night arrested landings, proving their readiness for large-scale combat operations anywhere on the globe. The Bush is currently crossing the Atlantic, charting a course for the eastern Mediterranean, where it is expected to relieve the exhausted crew of the Ford. Once the Bush arrives, the United States will have 3 supercarriers operating in the same theater simultaneously for the first time since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. These carriers are not clustered together, but are strategically distributed across 3 distinct sectors to create a multi-axis attack architecture. The George H.W. Bush will cover Iran's western flank from the eastern Mediterranean. The Ford, or its successor, will cover the south from the Red Sea, and the Abraham Lincoln will maintain pressure from the east in the Arabian Sea. This configuration allows for over 300 combat sorties per day, ensuring that no matter which direction Tehran turns, it will be hit from behind. This 3-pronged approach effectively collapses Iran's defense planning model, as it is impossible to distribute air defenses, interceptors, and command infrastructure across 3 separate threat axes while maintaining sufficient density in any single direction. It is a tactical nightmare, akin to trying to secure 3 different doors in 3 different rooms with a single lock. Beyond the visible surface fleet, the silent threat of Ohio-class guided missile submarines looms large. Though the Pentagon has not disclosed their exact positions, it is confirmed that these vessels, each carrying 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, are in the region. These submarines can strike any Iranian coastal target, command bunker, or missile site within minutes, remaining undetectable to Iranian defense planners. This invisible threat creates a state of permanent anxiety across all Iranian defense sectors, as they cannot plan against an asset they cannot see. Adding to the tension, a Reuters report from March 18th suggested that thousands of additional ground troops could be deployed, as leaves for the 82nd Airborne Division were canceled last week. The 82nd, America's premier rapid response force, can be airborne within 18 hours, and such a move is widely seen as a concrete preparation signal rather than a mere planning exercise. While the naval buildup is staggering, the air campaign is equally significant. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri are being loaded with GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. Each of these 14-ton bombs is designed to penetrate 60 meters of reinforced earth and concrete before detonating, specifically built to destroy Iran's deep underground nuclear and missile facilities. As stockpiles of these weapons have reached critical levels, the U.S. Air Force has awarded Boeing a $62.5 million emergency contract to produce more. Concurrently, B-1B Lancer bombers are being equipped with the new GBU-72 5,000-pound bunker busters at forward operating bases, weapons that have already been used to collapse Iranian coastal defense tunnels. B-52 Strato fortresses also remain in the air around the clock, systematically degrading Iran's logistical infrastructure. A fundamental shift in the economics of these operations has been noted by the Hudson Institute, as the U.S. has transitioned from using $2 million Tomahawk missiles to much cheaper GPS-guided JDAMs. This change is only possible because Iranian air defenses have been so thoroughly suppressed that American pilots can now fly close enough to drop low-cost munitions directly onto their targets, a shift that dramatically increases the magazine depth of the American forces and allows the campaign to continue for months longer than originally predicted. Supporting this effort, F-15E Strike Eagles from RAF Lakenheath have redeployed to Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, while 12 F-22 Raptors operate from Israel's Ovda Air Base, marking the first time offensive U.S. fighters have been based on Israeli soil. These Raptors provide a total air superiority umbrella over the entire theater. Additionally, 14 refueling tankers stationed at Ben Gurion International Airport ensure that American strike packages can reach targets deep within the Iranian interior. At Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base, Royal Air Force Typhoons represent a rare Allied contribution to an operation that much of the world has remained wary of. The logic of this second phase is to destroy Iran's ability to rebuild its military strength by targeting missile factories, drone production plants, and the entire logistical network of the Revolutionary Guard. Israel alone has struck over 100 such facilities in the last 24 hours, including IRGC transport aircraft at Tehran's Mehrabad Airport. Satellite imagery has confirmed damage to 17 aircraft on the tarmac, and 10 of Iran's 18 primary air bases have been hit, leaving runways cratered and hardened shelters collapsed. Despite this onslaught, Iran has not surrendered. The regime relies on its Imad cities, massive tunnel complexes buried hundreds of meters deep within the Zagros Mountains. These tunnels house mobile missile launchers that emerge only to fire before retreating into the granite. Because some of these facilities are 200 to 300 meters deep, they remain largely impervious to the GBU-57's 60-meter penetration capability. Intelligence suggests Iran has even deepened these tunnels in response to recent strikes. Bloomberg reports that despite a week of continuous bombing, there has been no significant reduction in the number of active Iranian ballistic missile launchers. On March 16th, Saudi Arabia intercepted 60 Iranian drones in a single engagement, and missile strikes have successfully hit a fuel depot near Dubai and threatened Kuwaiti waters. The conflict is expanding geographically, not contracting. Iran is also employing an asymmetric strategy by targeting the coalition's logistical support, specifically the KC-135 Stratotanker refueling planes. By damaging tankers at Prince Sultan Air Base, Iran aims to cripple the range of American fighters and slow the tempo of the air campaign. Finding mobile launchers across Iran's 1.6 million square kilometers is described by analysts as trying to find a specific car in a parking lot the size of Alaska at night while it is constantly being moved. While Iranian missile volume is estimated to have dropped by 90%, the remaining 10% continues to rain down on the Gulf, creating a critical contradiction. The war will continue as long as Tehran can replenish its stocks, which is why the U.S. is focused on manufacturing hubs. However, the U.S. faces significant challenges, including diplomatic isolation, as major allies like Japan, Australia, and France have declined to join the Hormuz coalition, and Spain has restricted access to its bases. NATO has officially distanced itself from the conflict, leaving the U.S. to lead the campaign with limited regional support. The Pacific Gap remains a haunting concern for the Pentagon, especially the possibility of Chinese movement toward Taiwan, while American resources are tied down in the Middle East. Furthermore, the mechanical limits of the USS Gerald R. Ford and the finite supply of specialized munitions like the GBU-57 pose long-term risks. While a large-scale ground invasion of the Iranian mainland remains highly unlikely due to the massive logistical requirements, limited surgical operations are becoming more probable. The arrival of the 31st MEU suggests a possible plan to seize Kark Island, the terminal through which 90% of Iranian oil exports flow. Captured oil infrastructure would allow the U.S. to choke off Iran's revenue without a full-scale invasion. As the George H.W. Bush arrives to facilitate 3 carrier operations, the goal remains the systematic elimination of Iran's military-industrial backbone. Israel predicts at least 3 more weeks of high-intensity operations, while the White House hopes for a swift conclusion. Yet the reality remains that while the U.S. can destroy capabilities, it cannot easily eliminate the challenges posed by geography and asymmetric resolve. This conflict serves as a stark reminder that the world's most advanced military can deliver the most expensive bombs, but reaching the deepest tunnels and breaking the will of a determined adversary remains a task.